Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. So I'm going to tell you something, as Alima already introduced, about our day-to-day fast-paced lives, as most of our speakers will do today. And to start with, I want to address a very simple question that we ask each other every day, all day, which is, how are you doing? And weirdly enough, the answer to that question is often, I'm busy. We get that response a lot, we get that response a lot. And I heard somebody say the other day that that's not really an answer to the question. Because how are you doing asks you to perform some form of introspection, feel how you are feeling, how you're actually doing, and that takes some time to tune in with your senses and with yourself. And the answer, busy, actually says that we're too busy to do that introspection and to actually feel how we are. So we're distracted, we're busy, we're doing other things. And I want to address two key points today that I think are big factors of us experiencing that busyness in our daily lives nowadays. So the first thing is that we as humans, we tend to worry a lot. And I think we all recognize that. We're in our minds, we're worrying about things in the future, so things that might happen, but also things that have happened. Have I said the right thing? Have I made the right choices? And then projecting into the future, what should I do? Especially being a teacher at a university, I experience that daily with students. Am I making the right choices, picking the right courses? So with that worrying, we're occupying our mind with future and past events, and we're forgetting to really be in the moment and enjoy the moment, which I'll come back to later. Now, it has been suggested that worrying is not a bad thing, just as stress, which is the topic we'll talk about today, is also not a bad thing. It helps us to project into the future what might happen, which can alter our behavior and our choices now. So if you think about this might happen, you can think about the emotion that that gives you and the consequences and how you would feel about the consequences, and then you can adjust your behavior now. So it has an effect on our motivation for whatever we're doing day to day. But then if we look at what we worry about, some studies suggest that actually 85% of the things we worry about never even happen. And the remaining 15% that does happen, actually we cope with a lot better than we thought we would. So that's a lot of mental energy and mental space wasted on worrying, of being curious but also stressed about what might happen and what the consequences of our actions might be. So worrying is good. It helps us to cope, just as stress does, and it helps us to survive maybe and to choose coping mechanisms. But too much worrying is not good, and is also detrimental for our well-being. So that's the one point I want to make, the worrying mind. The other one is, if you think about the last 100 years, 100 years ago, the main source of entertainment and information was the radio and the newspaper. So that was the information that was brought into our house that gave us information about the outside world. Now, if we fast forward to today, which is only 100 years later, we have the television, computers, internet, and most recently smartphones with social media apps and messenger apps. Now, I think we all know and probably experience that we are addicted to our phones. So that's the second thing I want to address. Why is that the case? If we look at our phones and the behavior that we perform with our phones or the interactions we have, one thing that sort of pops out is these, literally, push notifications. So the little messages popping up on your screen. And different studies suggest different numbers, but on average, or most studies report around 60 of these notifications per day. And we tend to interact with those notifications within minutes of receiving them, which is crazy if you think about that we have other stuff to do on a normal day. So we feel the need to respond to them, and it actually has been found that we find these push notifications irritating, disrupting, and distracting. So they distract us from the actual social interactions that we are having in a day. Now you would say maybe you could switch those notifications off, which is the first tip I want to give you today. Be aware and critical about the push notifications that you have switched on. Do you really need to know that you get a work email? Or do you need to be aware of all the likes and all the messages that you get through these social apps and messengers? So become aware of what you let disrupt you and if that is actually necessary for you. But then studies do find if we switch these notifications off, it doesn't affect our interaction with our phone. So again, different studies, different numbers, but most studies report around 100 or more pickups per day. So that's just picking up your phone and the screen lighting up. You can check this on your phone in the settings. You can see how much you do that on a daily basis. You can also see the different days, nice graphs. But over 100 times per day, we look at our phone, even if we don't have the notifications on, which shows that this is a learned behavior that has, and probably these apps, as we know, have been designed to make it addictive as well, but we have been trained to interact with our phone. Now, what's so interesting about our phone? What makes this so addictive? Apart from being worrying species, so worrying animals, if you'd like, we are also social animals. So we evolved, us as humans, in small clans of around 10 to 15 people that we interacted with a lot. And then bigger parts of the bigger clans that we were also a part of, which were bigger and bigger groups that we interacted with less frequently. If you look at that pattern of a social construct, we actually see that in nowadays interactions as well. So most of us have 3 to 5 very close friends that we interact with a lot, then 10 to 15 also close friends that we interact with a little bit less, and then as the circle expands, it becomes more friends, but you interact with them less and less meaningful. And we see that reflecting in our behavior on WhatsApp and social media apps. Now, being a part of a social group means, and especially in the evolution of humankind, that you have to adjust to the social norms, which also means you need people to like you and accept you. Because if you're not a part of the social group and they expel you or they don't like you anymore, it might be detrimental to your survival, which is not the case anymore today, but that's how we evolved. So this is why it's nice to be accepted by a social group. And that is also where the likes, hearts, views, that's why that gives us a good feeling. We like to receive compliments, we like to receive attention from loved ones, but also strangers that tell us that we're doing a good job or that they like whatever we have to share. And we know from research that getting these little messages of likes or hearts or views give us a shot of dopamine in our brain, which is a neurotransmitter involved in reward, in motivation, in movement, but also in addiction. So it's nice, but because it's nice, it becomes addictive. And that also explains why we check our phone over 100 times per day. What's more is that receiving these messages, and I'm sure everybody's experienced this, also creates a social pressure. You read a message from your friend, and immediately you start thinking about the response you want to give. You should respond. And the blue ticks in WhatsApp or the scene in Facebook make this even worse, which is a form of theory of mind. I know that I've read your message, or the other way around. So that gives you a certain stress. And the funniest thing related to this for me, are the messages that I get from friends saying, I can't respond to this right now. Or I'll respond to this later. Which just shows that they're stressed and they think they should respond as quickly as they can, and I'm not waiting for a response necessarily. So also research suggests that we should manage expectations towards our friends, but also towards ourselves. So you can switch the blue ticks off. Nowadays you can even appear offline if you're online, which also can reduce some stress in terms of this. And that might reduce our social distress that we feel with this interacting with these apps. So summarizing those two factors, we have a brain that's constantly worrying about the future and the past, forgetting to live in the moment, which I think other animals are a lot better at. I have 2 dogs, and just watching them lying in the grass, just sniffing around and enjoying nature is something we as humans don't do as much anymore. And we have a phone constantly asking us for attention and social interactions, which we like, but which also gives us stress. And it's been shown that interacting with your phone a lot is linked to detrimental well-being, especially subjective well-being, how we feel that we're doing. But also taking the phone away causes stress and even loneliness, because we lose that social contact that is so regular now over the internet or smartphones. So then taking those two factors together, what can we do? As my title says, we have a world full of stimuli, internal stimuli and external stimuli, constantly asking for attention, distracting us from the here and now. Now, one thing that's very powerful and very simple that I want to try out with you today, and some of you might have already done it and know this, some might not, but I want to practice a little bit of mindfulness. And some people think if they hear mindfulness or meditation that it's something spiritual, that we should transcend into another state of being, which is not necessarily the case. So I want to invite you to do this exercise with me. You don't have to do anything. You can just stay where you are. But I just want you to be. And that's a very simple assignment, but more difficult than you think. So without necessarily looking around, just become aware of the space around you, this beautiful venue where we are. And we're all here sharing this moment together, the same spot, the same time. And now become aware of your body. Just feel the weight of your body on the chair, pushing down. And you can close your eyes if you want to, you don't have to. But just feel. Feel your feet inside of your shoes. Become aware of your hands. And become aware of your breathing. So just feel your body breathing. There's no need to change the pace or the depth of your breath. Your body knows how to breathe. It goes perfectly automatically. And this is something we have with us all the time, every day. These are senses that reach our brain, but that we sort of forget to tune into because we're so busy with other things distracting us. And this is an exercise you can do wherever you want. So becoming aware of the here and now and really being in the moment is being mindful. And nothing changed about the situation. I just changed your attention and your awareness to this moment. I once saw at a festival a huge banner saying, "Be with the people you're with," which I really loved, because we're mostly on our screen, but we're not paying attention to the people here. And we found that being mindful is actually happening when we're doing things we enjoy, things we're good at, we're in the flow, we're with people that we love, and that's when we lose track of time, and that makes us mindful. So I encourage you to do those things more often, to switch off the notifications you don't need to distract you, to become aware of your interactions, manage expectations with others, become aware of the behavior with your phone, and just tune in with your senses every now and then, which again, you can do everywhere you want. So maybe in the break, enjoy the venue, talk to strangers, leave your phone in your pocket, and when you go home, enjoy the sun. It's beautiful weather outside. Tap in with your breathing, with how you're feeling. And then maybe if we do that regularly, we can actually start answering that question of how are you doing? Thank you.